But Rob, the Chiefs win 23-20 on a last-second field goal, 45 yards by their kicker, Harrison Butker. And, of course, it was preceded by a controversial call, although it's the right call. I hate it as I'm watching that game, Rob, and I'm talking about, of course, the push out of bounds, the unsportsmanlike conduct push where Joseph Osai, who had played a nice game, pushed Patrick Mahomes on the sidelines as Mahomes was scrambling. Rob, as I'm watching that, I'm thinking, I mean, you got to call it. It is what it is. But you just hate to see a great game or any game really end like that. Is that how you felt, or what were your thoughts on that, that last play?
I think if I'm an official, I don't want it to be you don't want to be the story. You don't want to make people, and a lot of fans were upset, not only just Bengal fans. As you said, you'd rather it be where, especially a tight game, a situation like that, where there's no kind of controversy. And, we talk about it all the time. You could call holding on almost every play. There's a lot of situations and circumstances, and you just don't want to be involved. I mean, and real quick, the flip is the LeBron James obvious foul and against the Celtics in that game. Like you say there, should you call it? Do you want the game to, be in a flux?
You should call that.
But that was
shooting the ball.
No, that's an obvious call.
Right.
But sometimes, that, Chris, referees swallow their whistles late in the games.
Yeah, I think you want to swallow it when it's, close.
No, I'm just saying, but there are some, but I thought that it did taint it a little bit where people were like, oh, man, I can't believe they made that call. So I think it tainted a little bit, but I think most people are going to just accept it and move on.
Right. We've talked about that in the past. Remember New Orleans and Minnesota, and people are, Rob, unfortunately, it happens, and so you just got to move on. Like you said, Jordan pushed off on Brian Russell. So what? He just did. We move on, and, his shot is iconic. But, Rob, my greatest takeaway from watching that game last night, and I've been one to praise Patrick Mahomes. And yesterday, Rob, I really felt, even though it wasn't a Super Bowl, I felt like he validated everything I've said about him. And obviously he's got to go on. He's got a long career ahead of him. He's got to win championships and things like that. But that dude, all the superlatives I've hurled his way, I've never felt more like, yep, that's what I was talking about. Jordan-esque. Yep, that's what I was talking about. Potential GOAT. Yep, that's what I was talking about. Best I've ever seen play the quarterback position. Knowing he can't be the GOAT unless he got to win more championships. But best I've ever seen play that position. And Rob, that dude on a high ankle sprain, that was his flu game. That was his flu game. And obviously a high ankle sprain is much more serious than the flu. But for him to go out there and throw for 326 yards, the 2 touchdowns, make that game-winning play, essentially, when he scrambled for 5-6 yards, whatever it was, on the bad ankle. I mean, and Rob, when they got the ball with 40-some-odd seconds left, it was like, he's going to score. He's going to score. And the feeling I have with Mahomes, and as much as I like him, I picked the Bengals, right? I thought the Bengals would win. And so I'm pulling for the Bengals, and I'm terrified whenever the Chiefs have the ball. Like, I'm surprised when they don't score. And obviously they don't score every possession, but I'm surprised. I've only had that feeling with 2 other athletes throughout my history of watching sports. One was Barry Bonds, Rob, when he hit the 73 homers. Like, whenever he went to the plate that year, I was surprised when he didn't hit a homer. He was either going to be walked or homer. You know what I mean? That was the feeling. And then, Rob, during Michael Jordan's heyday, when you know this, the Bulls could be down 15 with 5 minutes left. And this is before everybody was chucking up three-pointers. And you saw lead swings all the time. And you never felt like it was over. It was like, you know what? Jordan can win this. And so that's how I feel with Mahomes. Doesn't mean he wins it every time. Jordan didn't win every comeback game. Bonds didn't hit a homer every time. But this dude, I've just never seen anything like it as far as, the way he moves him down the field. And yesterday, Rob, 3 of his receivers out. Juju Smith-Schuster, McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney get hurt. A couple linemen ailing. And he was Superman. I didn't think he could put on a Superman performance with that bad ankle, but he did yesterday. So that was my major takeaway. And shout out to Chris Jones because he wrecked the game defensively.
All right. Here's my only issue with you and your comparison to Michael Jordan, and he's Michael Jordan-esque. First of all, you had no confidence in him coming in because you didn't. If he was really Jordan-esque and you knew he was playing, you would have picked him and the Chiefs no matter what. So that's
really?
Yeah. That's what I think. Okay,
that's your opinion.
My opinion. If you really believe that, but you didn't believe that going in, and that's why you picked the Bengals. Number 2, and I don't want to get on. Mahomes is a great player, so I don't want to sound like I'm trashing him or beating him up or whatever. But I didn't get the same feel because the second half, he had 161 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 turnover. On the winning drive, Mahomes engineered 11 yards of total offense. So it wasn't like the drive or he went 80 yards or something like that. 29-yard punt return, which was great, and the big 15-yard penalty, which put them in field goal range. That doesn't take away that they won the game and he played well, but that wasn't a Jordan-esque performance where I marveled at the drive and thought, oh my God, I can't believe. The drive he had last year against Buffalo, Chris, that was one where you were in awe because there was no penalty. You didn't have a big punt return that set you up in that situation. And here's the other thing about Mahomes and where we are with him. I think he's gotten to the point where, and this is part of the NFL, where you just give the quarterback credit no matter what the situation is. I told you this before. When Brady beat the Rams with no touchdowns in the Super Bowl, it was about Brady winning his 6th Super Bowl, right. And you could, and that's all the talk was. It had nothing to do with the Rams entered that Super Bowl, Chris, averaging 35 points a game, and they scored 3. And the conversation was about Brady winning his 6th, not about the defensive job that they shut down an offensive juggernaut coming into the Super Bowl. So that's my only reason I push back on you about the Jordan comparison because you had no faith in him going into this. If you really, I don't know, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, I don't know how many times you bet against Michael Jordan, and I don't say Michael won all the time, but I doubt you ever thought anybody was beating him 4 games out of 7.
You're wrong. Jordan is not just those 6 years. Jordan is a 15-year. We can even call it a 13-year career if you want to take out the Washington years. I didn't think Jordan was going to beat the Boston Celtics in 1986. There were times I didn't think Jordan was going to beat the Detroit Pistons when they beat him, 3 straight times in the playoffs? He was awesome then as he eventually became to be, or close. He had the come fly with me videos. Everybody was wearing his sneakers. Even then, it was Jordan. And I was debating cats in college who said Bird and Magic were better because they win. And I'm debating Jordan was the best. But that didn't mean I thought he was going to win every series. And that's the thing. Tom Brady is the GOAT. But we know it, right? He went 10 years without winning the Super Bowl. He didn't win every year. So I'm not going to, just because I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, doesn't mean I'm going to pick him to win the MVP every year. Doesn't happen. Nobody's done that. Or pick him to win the Super Bowl every year. Doesn't happen. Nobody's done that. So I don't think that makes sense. But then I don't know if you were doing this, but I don't think you compare what Mahomes did yesterday to Tom Brady in that Super Bowl. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm not saying you were doing that. But you did bring up the Brady game where he didn't score any touchdowns. And Mahomes, remember, on a high ankle sprain that they are saying it normally would keep somebody out 3 to 6 weeks. He threw the 2 touchdowns, threw for over 300 yards, only got 42 yards rushing from his running backs. And not even that much because he rushed for a few of the yards. So he got about 35 yards of support. He's without several of his top receivers and a couple of linemen, and he still gets it done.
Chris, in the fourth quarter, Mahomes 6 for 10, 56 yards passing, 2 Kansas City punts, and the winning scoring drive of 11 yards. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying.
What was the winning play, though? On a bad ankle, he mustered up
his
the
ankle
guts.
looked pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's still a high ankle sprain, so now it's not a high ankle sprain?
The big play was the penalty. Can we acknowledge that? Chris, even with the big play was the penalty.
But still, even if there had been no penalty, he runs for the first down, and you got 8 seconds left, so he would have had a chance to gain 7-8 yards on the next play and set them up for a field goal.
And he also,
who knows if he would have done it?
And he also could have thrown an incomplete pass or a pick six.
He could have, of course.
Right.
Well, I doubt a pick six, but but that dude, man, to belittle what he did
I didn't
with your
belittle
little fourth quarter stats.
I didn't belittle. I'm just giving you.
That's belittling 11.
I'm just
you're
giving
acting
you
like
stats.
He didn't do anything
These
special.
are facts. You got feelings for Patrick Mahomes.
Brady,
I have facts.
It scoring 13 points in the Super Bowl.
No, my point.
That's what you compared. That's a feeling. That ain't a fact.
No, it ain't.
Brady didn't throw for 300 yards in that game.
You're talking about
your 2 touchdowns,
and then your excuse about the Jordan that you never picked. When you talk about Chris,
did you?
I'm
not that kind of fan.
Chris,
where God, he's never gonna lose.
But the difference is
maybe that's you.
No, but what you're not being honest about is when you call him Jordan-esque, it ain't about Jordan before he became Jordan. It's after he was 6-0.
Jordan from day one.
No,
Rob.
that's what's Jordan-esque. No, he didn't, Chris.
Yes, he did.
He did not.
He had video. He had the come fly with me video. He had the best-selling sneakers.
It was after
he was
being
viewed as the
6-0.
best player in the league before he won a ring.
I covered Jordan then. They used to say.
So what? I don't care. That don't mean nothing to me.
Yeah, I don't, but I'm trying to tell you what was being said. You weren't covering the league then.
I know. I can watch and read and listen.
I was there. Just hear me out. I was there. Can you back off 2 seconds and say, okay, Rob actually was at the game. Rob actually covered.
So what was being said? That he wasn't any good?
And they were saying that he's a great player, but he doesn't make anybody better.
Wow.
I don't know if he'll
win.
There
in the locker room to know
I'm
that.
just
Everybody
telling you.
knew they were saying that.
So that ain't Jordan-esque. That ain't Jordan-esque.
You saying about Mahomes
That ain't Jordan-esque. That ain't Jordan-esque. When you mention that he's Jordan-esque, it's about being 6-0
Michael Jordan
and being
was
the
viewed
ultimate
by
winner. Come on,
many as the best.
You ain't keeping it real.
Okay, so you think Jordan's career was 6 years? I don't.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I think of
when you
Michael
call
Jordan
somebody Jordan-esque, it ain't about him scoring 60 points and losing to the Celtics.
Actually,
it ain't about losing to the
because a lot of people still point to that game.
Ain't what it is.
63 points against one of the people think is the best team ever. Some people. That still is a big part of Jordan's legacy. 69-18 against the Cavs. The shot in Cleveland over Craig Ego. All of that is a part of his legacy. 37 points a game. 35, 8-8 the next year.
That's all a part of his legacy. It's also about being 6-0 and winning all 6 MVPs.
That's also part
Without
of it,
that, Chris, you wouldn't even mention his name.
You just validated my point.
No,
when you
wouldn't
that
mention his name.
Is a part of his legacy.
It's
you don't talk for me. Talk for yourself.
No, I'm trying to tell you. I was there. I covered it.
Don't talk for me.
No, I covered it. That's all I'm saying.
And all that great coverage, all you came away with was they were saying he couldn't win. I knew that.
You were in high school. You were in high school or whatever you were. I was there. I was covering it. I was covering the league since 1987.
And you got as much insight as I got.
No, you had no insight.
He couldn't win. He's great,
you had no insight. You were watching the black and white TV.
If you really
had nothing. You had nothing.
All right, we got to go.